Hello, my dear student. I am Samprita from Economics Department. Welcome back to online class. This is continue part of Module 2, Theory of Consumer Behavior. Let us discuss today's class, the fourth part of this chapter, that is consumer surplus. The concept of consumer surplus plays an important role in the economic activity, especially in welfare economics. This concept was firstly formulated by French civil engineer and he also economist Jules Dupit in 1844 to measure the social benefit of public goods such as canals, bridges, national highways. Later on, Professor Alfred Marshall developed this theory in 1890. So consumer surplus is based on theory of demand and it is derived from the law of diminishing marginal utility. In earlier class you have studied what is law of diminishing marginal utility. And let us discuss about meaning of consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is a difference between willing to pay and the actual price. So people generally get more utility from the consumption of goods than the price they actually pay for them. It has been found that people are prepared to pay more price for the goods than they actually pay for them. This extra satisfaction the consumer obtained from the buying of good or the consumption of good has been called as consumer surplus. The essence of concept of consumer surplus is that consumer derive extra satisfaction from the purchase he daily makes than the price he actually pay for the purchases. This extra satisfaction which the consumer derives from the making the purchase is called as consumer surplus. So this definition, this meaning is given by Professor Alfred Marshall. In real life, when consumer buys a commodity, he thinks about utility derived from the particular commodity and price that he pay for the same. So every rational consumer compares the utility and the price that he pays for the commodity. That means every rational consumer compares his utility gain from the consumption of the commodity. Generally, a consumer makes the purchase only when his utility is greater than the price that he pay for the commodity. So generally, a consumer compares and prefer more to the which commodity give a more utility than he pay for the commodity. And the consumer surplus is what we are prepared to pay minus what we actually pay. It is the difference between the maximum price which the consumer is willing to pay for the commodity rather go without it and the price which he actually pay for the commodity. Let us assume that by simpler way we can understood with the help of example. A student needs a book. So a student buy a book. He is willing to pay rupees 30 for the book, but he get a book by rupees 25 rupees. He had saved 5 rupees, so it is called as consumer surplus. That means a student want to buy a book, so he is willing to pay 30 rupees to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper give him a book by rupees 25 rupees. Rupees 25. So he had saved 5 rupees. So this is called as consumer surplus. Let us discuss about definitions given by various economists. According to Dr. Marshall, the excess of price which a person would be willing to pay rather than go without the things over that which he actually does pay is the economic measure of the surplus of satisfaction. It is called as consumer surplus. According to pension, the difference between what we would pay and what we have to pay is called as consumer surplus. There are so many assumptions. Let us discuss one by one. Utility can be measured. Professor Alfred Marshall says that utility can be measured because it is cardinal measurement of utility. It is based on cardinal measurement of utility. You know the difference between cardinal measurement and ordinal measurement. Cardinal measurement means utility can be expressed through numbers. It can be expressed through numbers like 1 utils, 2 utils, 3 utils, 5 utils, so on. And in ordinal measurement, the utility cannot be measured in terms of number. It can be ranked. So it is a difference between cardinal measurement and ordinal measurement. The marginal utility of money is constant. That means a marginal utility of money should not vary time to time. It should be constant. Consumers' income, taste, preference, and the fashion are remain unchanged. That means a consumer's income should not change. It should be constant. And the taste, preference, and the fashion, it should not be unchanged. It remain constant. And no close substitute available. There should not be close substitute available in the market. You know the difference between substitute goods and complementary goods. The examples are for the substitute good, tea and coffee, and for the complementary goods, car and petrol, pen and ink, so on. And the consumer should be rational one. He should be rational consumer. He know the maximization of his utility, his satisfaction. And this is a diagrammatic representation of consumer surplus. So here this can be explained consumer surplus with the help of given diagram. In this diagram, quantity of commodity shows on OX axis and the price is shows in OY axis. PD is a demand curve of a consumer and OS is the market price. The price line is a parallel to the OX axis. The price line is parallel to X axis because of perfect competition. You know what is perfect competition? Perfect competition means a large number of buyers and sellers enter into the market. There is free entry and free exit. The producers produce homogeneous commodity. At the point B, marginal curve PD is intersect with the OS price level. However, OQ quantity the consumer get POQB utility. So at OQ quantity the consumer get POQB level of utility, whereas he pay only SOQB. Thus the triangular shaded area which is shown in the diagram orange color, the triangular shaded area PSB is a consumer surplus. He is willing to pay OP level of price for the OQ level of quantity, but actually he pays OS level of price. This is what is consumer surplus expressed with the help of diagram. In this slide the explanation of the diagram is given, and let us move on to the criticism of the consumer surplus. So some of the critics criticize this consumer surplus based on various measures. In assumptions, the Professor Alfred Marshall explained that utility can be measured in terms of cardinal measurement. But critics says that utility not measurable, because utility cannot be measurable. It cannot be expressed with the consumer by the help of any numbers. And this concept is completely imaginary, illusionary, and illogical. That means this concept is illusion. It cannot be happened in real life. And the marginal utility of money is not constant. In assumptions, Professor Alfred Marshall says that the marginal utility of money should be constant, but in reality it cannot be constant. It can varies time to time. And the measurement of the consumer surplus is difficult. It is so difficult to measure a consumer surplus by a consumer. which when he consume a commodity or when he buy a commodity cannot be measure the consumer surplus. So it is too difficult to measure. This concept is not applicable to substitute. So while the substitute commodity is available in the market, it is so difficult to apply this theory. So it is not applicable to the substitute goods available in the market. The income of the consumer differ. As you know, in real life, the income of a consumer not constant. It differ one by one person to the another person. And the complete list of the demand and the price not available to the consumer. So the consumer is less have a knowledge about a market. So he uh, doesn't have a complete list of demand and the price which is available in the market. So it is a criticism. By this we are understood by the consumer surplus theory. So hope you understand this theory. Thank you.